Okay, so let's talk about formats and opening formats in various areas. Because you know, especially if you're a company that can afford to have multiple formats, where you can have a value format and a traditional format and maybe even a club format. If you can have all these formats, then you have an arsenal that will allow you to go in various different cities with different variables, hitting demographic variables, people variables, income variables, the whole works, and open up the right format. So let's compare a couple. If you were given the opportunity to, here's all you're trying to do: open a store in, and then you pick a couple cities and you start to compare how the stores would differ. So let's do this. Let's do Lubbock, Texas, and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, because it's cold and rainy out right now, and we should go to Myrtle Beach and open a store. Lubbock, yeah, maybe not so much. But let's talk about the variables you would have to consider. What makes a store, or when we talk about formats, how do various formats differ? And they differ in assortment. They differ in SKUs. So remember, this can be different. Assortment and SKUs and inventory are all related, but they don't all have to be the same thing. You can have a lot of inventory with limited SKUs. You can have a lot of SKUs with limited inventory. You can have a focused inventory or a focused assortment like a category killer. So you play with this an awful lot. So this is one variable. The other variable would be turnover. Turnover meaning the calculation of your inventory turnover or your sales of inventory dollars as compared to an annual rate. Obviously, something like produce could be 70 turns a year or something like that because it rots. So it's inventory turns. Pricing, of course. In certain areas, you might have less. You might have less competition. Certain areas, you might have a convenience factor or a seasonal factor or something like this. So you can imagine your 8 Ps all factor in here when you're trying to open a store. So we'll just do this really quickly. If you're going to open in Lubbock, what's the consideration in Lubbock? I'll give you a minute. It's in Texas. Yes, you're correct. If it's in Texas and it's in West Texas, Lubbock is out by Amarillo, you have wide open spaces. It's like a Dixie Chicks song, right? You have wide open spaces. You are relatively rural in a city setting, which means you're a hub. You probably have Lubbock and 150 miles where people will drive in to stock up. You have Amarillo, the same thing. You have a lot of stock up because people are coming for miles and miles around, and then they go back for a couple of weeks. And in Myrtle Beach, you're seasonal. You are getting a lot of people on vacation, which means you have convenience pricing. You can probably pay a little, you can charge a little bit more. You probably need more ready-to-eat meals, obviously, because people don't want to cook a whole lot on vacation. Probably need a lot of alcohol. We need a lot of alcohol at the, well, you probably need alcohol everywhere, but Myrtle Beach, you would have a lot of alcohol because people are letting loose a little bit. And what about square footage? What about square footage? This is a big deal here. Square footage in Lubbock, you're probably okay in your square footage being a little large because you have people that are coming in and buying huge average items or average basket size because they're taking it and they're storing it in probably a pantry at home, where here people probably have like a 1 week a 1 week timeline, right? They're coming in on a Saturday, they're leaving on next Saturday. So they want to stock up, but it's not like for months, or it's basically 1 week. They plan a bunch of meals, they plan a bunch of snacks. So this would be snack oriented. You'll be ready to eat meals, but you need limited square footage. Please, if you learn anything from these videos, limited square footage in seasonal areas. Colleges are seasonal areas in essence. When the students are in, everybody's buying. When the students are out, nobody's buying. That square footage is sitting there. It's dead. In the winter in Myrtle Beach, the square footage is dead. You might want to go as high as 42,000 square feet, and that's it. You go any larger than this, then your winter months will eat up everything you can make in the summer. Don't do it. You don't need that much space. Let it all get backed up. That's just life. In a seasonal place, the registers are backed up from May through August. And then now you have a tighter footprint to handle in the winter. Here, you have stock up all year. You don't have a whole lot of seasonal issues in regards to weather. And so you'll have probably a very stable environment. So you can have larger square footage, and you don't really have a whole lot of seasonality. You're very even. Here, seasonality is like this. You might as well have truckloads outside and part little tent outside that you can fill up with summer seasonal stuff that you can close up in the winter. Does that make sense? You see what I'm talking about? Your turnover is a function of how much inventory you have on hand and how much sales you have on hand. This is a very high fluctuation situation for sales. This is a very stable situation for sales. So in this one, you can have a steady inventory. In this one, you pound in the inventory for the summer, and then you make sure you have a footprint that's nice and tight enough to get right back out and tighten it up in the winter so that you don't go bankrupt. So many people go bankrupt in these seasonal spots because the only other way they can make up for it, what's the only other way you can make up for it? Exactly. Take your prices up. You take your prices up to cover you for the winter. That's how people go out of business. I would suggest you do not do that. So this is it. It was very quick tonight. Assortment, SKUs, inventory. You're moving them across, and that's Lubbock and Myrtle Beach. And we can do it for New York City, Albany, the whole works. So this is just how your formats differ.